A simulated life, or a Simu-life, is when we try to take a narrative movie and replace the main actor with a volunteer.
A Simu-life is an interactive story wherein a non-actor gets to be the lead character in a fiction. It's kind of like play pretend for adults or living inside a movie.
It's immediate. It's the most immediate. Theater is very well prepared. I mean, you're still living the life on stage every night, right? Filming is, you got nothing to do but live that moment at that time. This is extending all of that. You've got to stay in the story. You've got to stay attached emotionally and intellectually for 3 days straight. And that takes a lot, and things can change on a dime.
Our main character is a non-actor who may make choices that we can't predict, and so we have to be ready for anything. Our crew and our cast has to improvise.
We're hoping you're going to get from A to B on your own, but we are ready for you to go from A to C. So if you change the story as you encounter it, we adapt to film whatever it is going to be that you want your story to be. It's a real natural form of story making because we're not pre-designing what the main character is going to do. We're recording or capturing the natural occurrence of it, and that's what makes it very unique from any other type of narrative movie.
Like any movie production, you have to have a production plan, you have to have a dedicated team, and everyone has to know their job, so meetings are critical.
Pre-production is extremely important for a Simu-life because it allows us to think through all the possibilities of the different avenues our main character can take when designing this or when living through the project.
So what we're doing before everything begins is I'm talking to the director, to the producer, we're looking over the script, and we're just figuring out well, of course, we're talking about the locations of every scene. And if we're good enough to know the actual locations beforehand, I can think about camera placement, where I want cameras to be, which kind of cameras that I want to be there, and discuss lighting options, lighting issues, which can be a huge issue because of the fact that it is all natural light. We have to keep it natural to keep the scene looking great for the spec. And the idea is hiding everything, keeping everything well lit.
We create a very definite story arc, and we load it with all of these scenes, characters, and settings and circumstances that have potential that we can kind of anticipate will turn into a narrative structure overall. How our spectator decides to react to those things, to navigate it, is always still an open question.
You don't know if the volunteer is going to deliver the exact story you had prepared, or if they're going to rewrite their entire story in the moment. And that's the beauty of it. It's kind of the opposite of the auteur theory of filmmaking, is the director doesn't have complete control over the actors and the story elements of it. They're leaving it in the hands of the improvisational actors in the scene, and especially from the volunteer, the spectator. It's been very interesting for me because Ken Ingram and I wrote this. It was my story and concept, and we sat down and we wrote it together over the span of about 4 months. And you get to a point, and especially on that first day on set, you're just like, well, all the preparations and all the months, this is it. And go. Will it fly? Will it float? Will it sink? You just wait to get out the other end and see what you got.
Working with Mike on the writing process and working with his original story idea was a lot of fun because it was a chance to start adding ingredients to this brew that he'd already concocted. We knew it was around a detective. Film noir was going to be the style, but you can go a lot of ways with that. With a detective, you've got a mystery. It's almost a given. But a mystery interactively is quite an angry beast. Things that you don't think are clues become clues, and things you do think are clues do not become clues. In talking with Mike, what we realized was we had to shift this from a mystery, pure and simple, to more of a film noir style story, which meant it was about deception, it was about motivations, it was about the underbelly of society. Mike already had the idea of certain characters that needed to be there: the mentor figure, the the apprentice character. But there were a few things, especially from the film noir perspective, that weren't quite there yet. The femme fatale, for example, needed to be in there. And so we tossed around a lot of different ideas. We were thinking about casting at the same time we were writing. So there was some question, well, would the apprentice be male or female? And what would that do to the gender makeup of our story? And should the villain then be a female? It was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun to be taking all of these elements and mixing them up and going, well, what if we look at it this way? What if we look at it this way? And knowing that we still had the story in there, but it looked and felt very different. And of course, all of that would impact our spectator.
Spectator. The word is invented for this type of performance. It stands for spectator actor. This type of performance has its roots in theater. The idea being, have you ever seen an improv show, a comedy show, where they ask names out of the audience or maybe get a volunteer? It starts there, and then it evolved into something much bigger, much grander, a more defined image, where you're not just pulling a random audience member up to have a laugh at them or have them laugh with you or anything like that, as much as you're inviting your audience to directly step in and become a part of the story. Not just a part, but the central part of the story too.
I knew from speaking to Ken and speaking to Kurt, say just totally go with it. The people around you are going to have to respond to what you're doing. You're really kind of in charge of this whole thing. Don't do something bizarre, but go with what you think you should do. React as normally as you can possibly react.
It's very different in the sense that you don't get the chance to really rehearse what's going to happen before it happens. It's similar in the way that you're really setting intentions and developing the reality of a character and a story and understanding the basic dimensions of the story and the characters and who you are and really fleshing out all those details. But then because your main acting partner is somebody you don't know, that's this element of you kind of know who they are. You know some of the descriptions, like I know that he's my boss, that kind of thing. You know some of the relationships, but you don't know what the actual interaction and dynamic is going to be like. So there's a whole improv element as well.
Well, I certainly had no idea what I was getting myself into, and then when I read the bio, recovering alcoholic, dead child, wife gone. Say, okay, this is the prototypical private investigator down on his luck. I don't know. I just I think everybody has those, has some background with that because they've seen so much of it.
Well, directing interactors for a Simu-life is its own kind of challenge. You prepare them. They work on their own characters. We work rehearsal-wise to make sure that they're comfortable in their characters and that they can feel fluid enough in their characters to improvise. When it gets to the scene, I've got to let them go. It's a clear trust that the director has to place in his performers. When you're in the scene with a spectator, as an interactor, you're an actor, you're also a writer, you're also a director at times. And so my job as director for them was to get them comfortable enough and to know what to expect, but then also be ready to pivot based on what they see. And I always made it clear that I trust them. I trust their instincts. These are talented people, they know what they're doing. And if they make a call in the middle of the scene because it feels right, based on where they are in the story, we all trust them, just like we trust the crew to improvise their work.
To be honest, it's a completely unholy marriage between theater and film. With theater, everything's for the actors and the audience. The tech side is kind of always on the back end of it. Anyone that's worked in the theater business will tell you the same thing. Filmmaking's the opposite. As much as the public will place their actors on a pedestal, it's really the technicians of a film that make the film possible. It is the filmmakers themselves. And so the issues we always run into are there are two mentalities of people trying to put themselves their craft first over someone else's. With this, you gotta really just flow with it, go with it. Things are gonna happen one way or the other, you know. You gotta understand that one side is not more important than the other. The only way this project will work is if both sides remain equal.
The idea is really to be adaptable for any kind of scene that could come up, no matter where they are, loud environment, dark environment. That was the biggest thing about having so many GoPros, at least, beyond just the other cameras, is we needed all the coverage we could get.
What makes this production so hard is that we do use regular stuff that you would find on a film set, but we also have to use specialty equipment, things that you wouldn't normally find through regular production rental houses and things like that. For instance, we use a specialty camera called a pan-tilt zoom camera.
We can control them independently, so no matter where they're going in a scene, we can, if we position them correctly, we can use them to get coverage the whole time, moving them, zooming in, zooming out, just going with the flow of what the improv and everything that's going on with this kind of Simu-life. When we're setting up the scene, we only have about maybe an hour, maybe two if we're lucky, before the spec gets there. So we're trying to set everything up. We've already thought about where we're going to put the cameras, so we know where that's going to go, and then we just have to run the cable and hide the cable from the spec so he sees as little of it as possible, hide the cameras as best we can, and just put everything around, because there's no second chance with that. So you have to really try to get the angle you want.
We only have one shot to get it right. When we're in the moment, we're shooting the real deal, one shot. We set multiple cameras in the scene. Everyone clears the scene tech-wise. We all hide in a different room. The interactors go in, and then our volunteer spectator goes in as well. And they have their scene as it naturally occurs. We do our best. We pray to God that it comes out right. But then as soon as they're done, they leave the scene. We go back in and strike everything out and review it.
I see it as it's a beautiful train wreck, because the person who is the story, I guess, they are the story, because they are the choices. They are what weaves everything together. And they can make terrible choices because they're allowed to, and they're allowed to make great choices, unexpected choices that you would never dream possible in any kind of movie or any kind of normal screenwriting, novel, any medium. And it's amazing.
Well, it never goes according to plan. That's the nature of a Simu-life. If it did go exactly according to plan, then I don't think it would be truly interactive. That's what we live for. That's the goal. We want it to go a little off the rails, maybe a lot off the rails.
I believe in enough in this project and the art form of interactive performance that I know it has a future, and I want to be one of the first people to use it in a cinematic form.
To me, it's a Simu-life if the spectator comes out the other end feeling empowered. And that's what I hope interactive gets defined as being, and I hope Simu-life is a big part of that. I hope people see this not as an exploitation, because it's not, but truly as an empowering experience.